Well, in business news, the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation has urged members of the public to continue their banking activities without fear, assuring that all banks in the country are safe and sound. The acting head Communications and Public Affairs Department of the corporation, Ms. Awa Gambo, reiterated this in Abuja. Ms. Gambo said NDIC had made progress in reimbursing the insured deposits of 5 million naira maximum per depositor in failed banks. Meanwhile, the corporation says it will declare the first tranche of liquidation dividends from Heritage Bank's assets realization in April. According to the NDIC, it will thereafter begin payments to uninsured depositors of the bank. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative has recovered $4.85 billion from unpaid liabilities owed by oil and gas companies in the country. NATI's Executive Secretary, Dr. Oji Oji in Abuja, disclosed that the recovery is part of the total $8.26 billion identified in its 2021 oil and gas audit report. He said the development demonstrates the agency's commitment to transparency and accountability in Nigeria's extractive sector. According to the Executive Secretary, significant progress has been made in recovery of funds. As NATI said, so far, more than $4.85 billion has been recovered from the disclosures of $8.25 billion in its 2021 oil and gas report. Implored the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission to take stronger enforcement action against defaulters and to prevent future revenue leakages. The Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, says President Bola Tinubu's transformative agenda has reinvigorated Nigeria's economy, strengthened institutions, and restored hope in the hearts of many Nigerians. The minister said this in Abuja in his congratulatory message to the president on his 73rd birthday. Special advisor to the strategic communications and media relations to the minister, Mr. Bolaji Tunji, commended President Tinubu's leadership and unwavering commitment to national development. He said the bold reforms implemented by the president have set the country on the path of growth and prosperity. The minister said under his leadership, the country has witnessed unprecedented investments and policy innovations in the energy sector. But there are reports that the pump price of petrol will increase and has increased in some cases to $9.30 per litre and $9.70 per litre outside Lagos. Well, that's what we've seen, and this negative impact on the economy is something to worry about. And of course, increasing cost of living, production and transportation, potentially leading to inflation and hindering competitiveness of the manufacturing sector. Professor Emeritus in Petroleum Economics at Emmanuel Boga Foundation, Abuja, Professor Moumi Iledare, speaking on our flagship business program, Business Nigeria, said, well, the fundamentals of the market is driving this price change.
We need to come to terms with the fact that when you look at the fundamentals of the wholesale market in Nigeria, it's not only about the price. When you look at the law of demand, it will say that when the price of a commodity goes up, the quantity demanded will go down. Ceteris paribus. That ceteris paribus is with respect to other factors that may affect demand before it affects price. One of which is the economic output of your country. Another is the price of related goods. All of this interplay is there. And even the preferences of your consumers. Because that's what's going to affect the demand and affect the supply. And that's where you see increased production locally could help. But you have to know there's a competition for Nigerians' flair for dollar. But Nigeria is running a dollar-dominated economy. And anything that will not enhance the dollar is not good for some people, even though it is bad for Nigeria.
Professor Ilidare there. Well, moving on now. World shares markets fell sharply today and gold surged to another new record after U.S. President Donald Trump said tariffs would essentially cover all countries as worries over global trade wars could lead to a recession. European stock 600 fell 1% to its lowest level in almost 8 weeks, while major indexes in Frankfurt, London, and Paris fell between 0.8% and 1%. S&P 500 features lost 0.7%, extending Friday's rout, while Nasdaq features shed 1.1%. Japan's Nikkei led the rout in Asia, losing an eye-watering 4.1% and falling to a 6-month low as automaker stocks continue to suffer fallout from Trump's talk of a 25% tariff on imported cars. Now, MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan shed 1.9%. Now, President Donald Trump says a deal with TikTok's Chinese parent, that's ByteDance, to sell the short video app used by 170 million Americans would be struck before Saturday. Mr. Trump set April 5th deadline in January for TikTok to find a non-Chinese buyer or face a U.S. ban on national security grounds due to having taken effect the month under a 2024 law. TikTok did not immediately comment on the issue.
TikTok, we have a lot of potential buyers. There's tremendous interest in TikTok. The decision is going to be my decision, as you know, through Congress. They've given me the power to make the decision. We have a great team of people essentially taking bids. We have a lot of people that want to buy TikTok. We're dealing with China also on it because they may have something to do with it, and we'll see how that goes. But it's something I think you're going to have. I'd like to see TikTok remain alive. I mean, I'll be honest, selfishly speaking, I won the young vote by 36 points. Republicans generally don't do very well with the young vote, and I think a lot of it could have been TikTok. It could have been Joe Rogan, and it could have been a lot of things, but it was also TikTok.
Donald Trump there on the sale of TikTok. Moving on now, factory survey from China on Monday shows that the country's manufacturing sector's activities expanded at the fastest pace in a year in March. The reading should reassure officials that the recent fiscal support is bolstering the $18 trillion economy. However, the relief is expected to be short-lived, with U.S. President Donald Trump set to announce new reciprocal tariffs to tackle perceived trade imbalances. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the official Purchasing Managers Index rose to 50.5 in March from 50.2, the highest reading since March 2024, and Marching analyst forecasts in a Reuters poll. The non-manufacturing PMI, which includes services and construction, accelerated to 50.8 from 50.4. Crude oil markets shrugged off U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to hit buyers of Russian oil with tariffs as the shock value of the barrage of threats from the White House begins to wear thin with traders. Now, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose to sell for $69.50 per barrel, with an upward review of 0.20%. Brent crude futures experienced an uptick of 0.61% to sell at $74.08 per barrel. Bonnie Light sells for $78.62, with a decline of 2.84%. For the OPEC basket, dealers offer $76.11, with an upsurge of 0.20%. That's business news at this hour. See you at the top of the hour for Business Nigeria.